Welcome everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how to change your sprinkler valve solenoid. I go through all the steps how to remove, install, and wire up a new one. We will use my favorite connectors that have a special silicone grease gel to keep your wires from moisture, which ensures a solid connection. Your connector choice is essential because it's one of the top reasons for failure. Finally, we'll go through some common ways to troubleshoot electrical issues with your sprinkler valve solenoid. Checking for voltage, how to check continuity to ensure the sprinkler wire is not the issue, and of course how to determine if your solenoid needs replacing. So let's go. Let me show you how my Yardian Pro Smart Sprinkler Controller app has the ability to scan all the valves to determine if the solenoid is detected and available for each zone. In the app, you click on Scan Valves, then the Start to Scan Valve button. You can see how my Zone 6 wasn't detected, only Zones 1 through 5. Let's go replace the solenoid, and then we'll rescan the valves. The first step is to unplug your controller. Then you need to shut off the water to your irrigation system. I'm doing it here at the pressure vacuum breaker assembly, which prevents backflow in the water system. Mine is old, so I need help from my pliers. You carefully turn the handle until the limit stop bottoms out here on the valve body. Okay, the next step is to unwire the solenoid. I'm going to show you the replacement of the 2 in this box. Because of their age, I changed all 6 while I was at this. I cut the wire on the old solenoids because they are getting replaced anyway. I next remove the solenoid handles. They help when turning the solenoids on and off manually. The way I reopen these IDC connectors, I squeeze the blue cap from the sides. The cap pops out, and then you need to remove the connector blades. You will see how these connectors get installed once we rewire everything back up. Once the blades are removed, the wire is released and pulls right out. If you have wire nuts, just unscrew them to disconnect the wires. I repeat this for the other 2 connectors. You can purchase these connectors from Amazon. The hardware stores don't have them. I next remove the old solenoids. Now you're seeing me use pliers to start the removal turning counterclockwise, but never install them this way using pliers. My solenoids have just been in here for so many years, they're hard to unscrew at first, so that's why I'm using my pliers to loosen them. Once they break loose, I can use my hand to finish unscrewing them the rest of the way. As you can see, this isn't that hard. Next I give it a quick rinse, then use my cutting pliers to cut the packaging cable tie. All that's left is to screw them on and wire them up. Now again, don't use a tool to install your new solenoids. Just screw them on clockwise hand tight. Once you feel it stop turning, stop. Don't crank it down. Next I turn the water back on. When the handle looks like a cross, it is off. When the handles are going in the same direction as the pipe, that is on. You can test by manually turning on the new solenoids by turning them counterclockwise until you hear the water flowing. You can see my zone 6 is on, and I turn it back off. I next test zone 5, but I forgot one thing. Ah! Ah! Yeah, there's a sprinkler head right where my valve boxes are.
You big dummy!
So I covered it up so that can't happen again. Okay, now everything is working correctly manually with the valve. Time to wire up the solenoids. I'm using some lever actuated connectors so I can quickly wire this up to test it. I simply take one wire from each solenoid, doesn't matter which one, and connect it to the white common wire coming from the controller. Then I just take the second wire from one of the solenoids and connect it to the red wire. And then I take the other second wire from the other solenoid and connect it to the green wire. Let's go scan the valves to verify the solenoids were the problem. I plug the controller back in, let's scan the valves. Back in the app, I scan the valves and you can see zone 5 and now zone 6 is back. Awesome. Let's go clean up the valve box and rewire the solenoids with the IDC type connectors I prefer. I go ahead and reinstall the solenoid handles. The back has an opening. You line up the wires with that opening so they don't get pinched. If you don't have these handles, don't worry about it. You don't really need them. While I was in here, I refreshed the pebbles that help with drainage. I'll link at the end of this video and in the description a video I did on how I installed these valve boxes and ran a new sprinkler wire from the controller in the garage to out here. Here's a shot of the packaging of the connectors I liked and ordered, but note the waterproof wire nut type from the hardware store works too. Okay, I'm doing this one connector at a time so I don't get mixed up. And of course you need to take note at the controller which color wire goes to which zone. I started with the common wires. You squeeze the blue cap down by hand, then use pliers to carefully make sure you evenly force the blades down that make the connection. You might see a little silicone grease gel squeeze out, which is normal. Then I give it a little tug to make sure it's secure. Now as you watch me wire up zone 6 with the red wire and zone 5 with the green wire, I need to mention you don't need to strip the wires for these insulated displacement contact or IDC connectors. These electrical connectors are designed to be connected to the conductor of an insulated cable by a connection process which forces a sharpened blade or blades through the insulation, bypassing the need to strip the conductors. I would suggest you do it that way to make a better watertight connection. I make a final tug to make sure every wire is tightly connected, and then I go ahead and use zip cable ties to clean up the wires. Now the reason why you didn't see me cut off the end of the wires, since these IDC connectors don't need a stripped wire, is because I didn't want to shorten the wires coming from the controller more than I needed to. You'll see why next. Also, I've never had a problem doing it either way. But again, if you have enough wire length, I suggest you don't pre-strip them for an even more sealed connection. Now I give the wires a pull and straighten them up to be above the box wall. My valve boxes fill up with water easily. That's why I needed maximum wire length and didn't cut off the pre-stripped part of the wire. Like I previously mentioned, I changed all 6 of my solenoids. Let's go scan the valves and make sure everything is working. If you guys are enjoying this video, please consider liking and subscribing to see more home DIY repairs like this one. Looks like we're still good. All 6 zones are available. I'm in the Apple ecosystem, so I can turn any zone on with my phone, Apple Watch, or by voice. I also have a video on my channel I will link at the end showing how I installed my Smart Yardian controller if you want to learn how to do that. Remember, my zone 6 was down, so I turned it on. Let's go see if it's working now. Yes, we did it. It's back up. Okay, the second half of this video I'm going to go through some common ways to troubleshoot issues in your irrigation system pertaining to the solenoid. So I always start with the controller and make sure the zone that is not working is getting 24 volts. You need to slightly pull out your wire so your probes can touch bare wire, put your setting on 200 volts AC, have the zone that you're testing running, and see if the controller is producing 24 volts. You can see my zone 6 was producing 24.9 volts. So that's how I knew the controller wasn't the issue. So next, I wanted to check if the 24 volts was getting to the solenoid. This would indicate I'm having a problem with my sprinkler wire. As you can see, I'm getting the same 24.9 volts at the solenoid. Next, unplug your controller. We're going to test the continuity pathway of the wire through the solenoid back to the controller. Let me show you the results after changing my solenoid. Set your multimeter to 200 ohms and connect your probes. After this test on the new solenoid, we'll test the old solenoids I removed at the beginning of the video at my shop bench. You can see I'm getting 42.89 ohms. Now you need to look up your solenoid's manufacturer's resistance limits. But in general, it's going to be somewhere between 20 to 60 ohms. Less than 20 ohms may indicate a short or cross wires. More than 60 ohms may indicate a broken wire, bad splice, or a bad solenoid. So here's the reading that I got on my bad zone 6 solenoid. OL stands for overload or over limit, which of course means it's bad. On my zone 5 solenoid I got a really high reading, which means it was about to go. This is why I just changed all 6 while I was at it. They're all about 20 years old. Okay, next, let me show you on my shop bench one way to check your sprinkler wire if you suspect that, so you can see the complete picture. I'm going to use my continuity tester. You attach it to the 2 wire colors that you want to test. I'm attaching the remote probe to the white and red wires on one end, and then the transmitter to the opposite side white and red wires, and when you turn it on, you can see the red light flashing and we have continuity, which means there's no break in the wire. If you cut the wire, you can see how the red light stops flashing and the beeping stops. Okay, now let's do this in practice. Unplug your controller and disconnect the color wires you want to test from your controller. As you saw earlier, for me it was the red wire because my zone 6 was down. The green wire is my zone 5 next to it. I'm again attaching the remote probe to the white and red wires on one end, and then the transmitter to the opposite white and red wires. I did this test before changing the solenoids. Turning the power on, you can see I don't have a break in the wires. Now for some fun, here's another way to test your solenoid. You connect 3 9-volt batteries like this. That gives you a little over the 24 volts needed. Then I touch the 2 wires to the batteries from the bad solenoid, and you can't hear the plunger operating. Just sparks from the battery. Here's one of the new solenoids. Listen carefully, you can hear the plunger operating. That's how you know you have a working solenoid. So that's it guys, I hope this video helped you out with your troubleshooting, and you can see how easy it is to perform a DIY solenoid changeout on your irrigation valves. Please remember to hit the thumbs up if you like this video, and be sure to subscribe to see more home DIY videos just like this one. Click on any of these links on the screen to check out my other home DIY videos. One I show you how I upgraded my valve boxes after replacing my broken sprinkler wire with a new one. The other how I upgraded my old sprinkler controller to a smart one, while demonstrating all the advantages, which you got to see one of those in this video when I scanned the valves. Thanks again for watching. Bye everyone.